Hey everybody, this is Toby Younis.
And Shelley Carty.
Yeah, you are. Thanks for joining us tonight. So stick with us a little while, and we are going to discuss everything we can Fenn. We'll be reading some emails, we'll be reading some text messages, and later on we'll open up the phone line so that you can call in. It's going to be a hot night tonight. And good evening to you, Miss Shelley. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing super. How are you?
I'm doing great. I had a good day today. Had a little, my 6-month VA appointment, and was very nicely pleased with the results. So I'm going to live another year at least.
Oh,
Yeah, good stuff.
I didn't get a notification yet. Are we live?
We are live. I'm showing up on the screen. We have 51 viewers at the moment.
Oh, okay.
And we already have some questions in the room. Can you see the chat room? I want to make sure you can see it from your side.
I can see it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we start? Let me, while the room loads up, and then I'll hand it over to you so that you can say hi to the folks in the room, pick up any questions. A couple of things, folks. Number one, if you're going to ask a question in the chat room, make sure you precede it with an @AGK-media so that we can see it. This chat scrolls by pretty quickly, and if we don't have some kind of highlight indicating that you have a question, it might go by. We may not be able to do that. Now, there's a couple of things I'd like you to do, and that is please like this video. YouTube likes it when you like our videos. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe. And that way, when we launch a new live stream, you will be immediately informed. And then last but not least, if you look down at the bottom of the chat window, there's a super chat, a stylized $sign. If you click on that, you can offer us some support of our project with Super Chat, and also it highlights again your comment or question. I'm going to ask that if you don't have a question, simply want to make a comment, please do so without the @ because we want to work with people's questions tonight. Then, of course, if you really want to get my attention, you can send your question. Not that you won't get my attention otherwise, but if you want me to notice your question in front of me, you can text it to our toll-free number, 866-597-9901, and that pops up on my screen right here, and we'll go through those as well later on. And then once we've gotten through the mail and the text messages that have arrived this week, we'll open up the phone lines and we'll have a conversation. All right? All right, Shelley Carney, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can go greet the people that are already in the room and see if there's any comments.
Oh, all right. Well, let's see where. I'm starting with Maverick Searcher, it looks like.
Oh, did you lose some? Yeah, you're right. Maverick Searcher, good evening all.
Okay,
Yeah,
there we go.
He was in the room early.
Oh, okay. And then we have William, world famous gamer, Greg Ferguson, Christina Jarrett, who says she wants to call in this evening, and that number is right there on the screen for you, Christina. Heather Dawn is here.
Hi, Heather Dawn. How are you doing?
John Werner is freezing in New York, 10 degrees.
Upstate New York, no less.
EJ Rainville is here. Aaron Herlihy, snowing in Seattle. I heard about that. Bill Cross is here from Texas. Paul Wood. And he has a question, but I don't understand it. He says, what number from 0 to 25 does Forrest Fenn use the most? Chat room could say 2. Thanks. I guess he's just looking for a number that Forrest does the most.
We're a big fan of him using 369, which is why that coin, you're that coin that you see right there is the number 369. I'm a big fan. Although I've heard people claim that his two favorite numbers, or that favorite numbers include the number 42 and the number 50. And apparently in the past couple of years, the number 200, which he seems to use a lot.
Mm. Now, 50 is in the book several times.
Yeah.
Let's see, who else is here? Smoking Joe Glover. Oops. I'll turn my sound down.
Oh, were you getting feedback?
I got my notifications, so I was checking it out.
Wow. Aaron Hurley, he says that it's snowing in Seattle. That's unusual.
Yeah, I heard about that. Big storm going through. We have Jeep Girl Jody. I haven't seen her in
Jeep
a
Girl,
while.
I haven't seen you in a while. Hi.
We have Hooley. Says Toby's looking sharp. Yes,
I've made it my goal to, whenever I appear on camera from this point forward, I will appear in at least a shirt and tie and occasionally a coat as well. But it's just that I'm tired of not using the clothing in my closet. It doesn't get any use. So
it sparks joy for you. Then
it
you
sparks
should wear it.
Yeah. Is that lady that cleans up your
Marie
house?
Kondo says.
Yeah. Okay. It does spark joy in me every time I go in that room, in my closet.
Yeah. So we have Glenna Friedman. Davio's here.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Davio's here. Davio in the house.
Then we have the Blaze of Glory.
Oh, the Blaze of Glory. He has. I don't know that we've ever seen him in a chat room, right? He has his own YouTube channel. So I don't remember him being in the room.
Oh, okay. Zozo Rocks, Oscar Rodriguez, David Dow. Let's see, Adam Foddy.
Thank you, Adam. I happen to like this one. It's that wine-colored red. It's not bright red. It's wine-colored. Did you see that Zozo Rocks got a $40 tip today? Nice.
Tip.
Yeah.
Lavender Blonde, Greg Ferguson. Lavender Blonde says you look dapper.
I like that. I like looking dapper.
Yeah. Jason Northface, Journeyman, and Belva Jenkins from Chattanooga. Tony Lee. Looks like a new name to me.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one before.
Jim Siri from Florida.
What part of Florida? My daughter lives in Boca. My daughter, my granddaughter, and my son-in-law live in Boca Raton.
And we have, where did this? Dak.
Hey, Dak. Nice to see you again. World Famous Gamer says he needs some prayers, if you don't mind. So offer some prayers. WFG, tell us what we need, what we're praying for.
Yeah. Dwight Gwynn, can you explain the 369? I've heard this before, but don't remember the reference.
The reference is me, Dwight. He uses those particular numbers a lot. If you just look at the poem, there's 369s in there, but there is no other reference. I'm the one that kind of created that myth on my own.
We have Xarbin.
Xarbin's in the room. Wow, we haven't seen him for a while.
I think he was there Wednesday. But
he was? Oh, I didn't notice him. I'm sorry.
Smokin' Joe says, why is the 32 scrapbook missing?
Smokin' Joe, everybody has been asking that question since scrapbook 33, and no one knows why. No one has an answer to that question. At least no one has a credible answer to that question that I've heard. Maybe some of the folks in the room have heard something credible.
Randy Henderson. And let's see, Sledneck is here.
Hi, hey, Sledneck.
Rick Plank from Cincinnati. Opie Johansson, his first Fenndango.
Oh, nice. Welcome, Opie.
And
Jim's in White Springs. Jim, that sounds to me like Central Florida for some reason or the other, but because I'm not familiar with it. Let me know where is that, just north of Lake City. No, still don't. World Famous Gamer says it's his mom's health. He's worried. So let's offer up some prayers for AGK's mom. Hope she recovers quickly.
AGK's mom.
I'm sorry. AGK's
World
mom.
Famous Gamer.
AGK's mom ain't coming back anytime soon.
My mom's good.
Yeah. Your mom's healthy and my mom's gone. Sorry, I meant World Famous Gamers Mom.
Yeah. Okay.
Scar says, what's with a tie? I am taking advantage of a closet full of clothes that I never get to wear. Everybody, even my daughters, make fun of the fact that I'm always in cargo pants and a fishing shirt. And there is literally behind me a closet full of clothes that rarely get used unless I'm going out. And so I've decided to start using them. That's all it is. So
we have the retrieval artist from just north of Lake City. Sakar, you mentioned.
Oh, Jim's a snowbird. Jim Siri. Florida in the winter and Michigan in the summer.
And Jerry Stone is here, along with Lou Jack 37 from Nashville, Tennessee. Been in the search since 2013.
That's when we started.
And then there's OK Larry. Says he emailed Dale and he said he skipped that number. I guess that's the scrapbook number. So
the 25.
Thanks, OK Larry, for that answer. And Kurt Hensley says hi. Joe S. My Vicarious Adventures. Hey. And we're all caught up.
All right, good. Zozo, I'm really picky about my ties. I usually buy my ties when I buy my shirts, so that they work together. Okay, let's start. We've already got a bunch of text messages I've got to take care of, but let's start with some emails, because what I'm going to have to do is these emails are associated with some links, and I will put the links that I refer to here in the description box below after we process the show. Okay, so this is a message from Erin Ramsey, and I don't know. She makes a comment at the end in the form of apology, and I don't remember what she was apologizing about. Do you remember something? Did I have a little tiff with Erin Ramsey?
Possible.
Anything. You just did a Toby. Anything is possible.
It's been so long since we had our little, moment in the sun, and we moved on from all of those things.
Right.
So.
Okay, so this is an email from Erin Ramsey. She says, hi, Toby. Sneak peek of my new book. I explain more on Dale's odds and ends. Kyle Lasers asked me if, oh, dadgummit. He may not be in the room, but he does actually get up. He's got his own intro music. Kyle Lazars asked me if it was a treasure hunt like a politician. I answered yes and no. It is a treasure hunt, but the end of the treasure hunt is explained in the book. My dad was your generation, meaning old fart. No, we're boomers. My gut feeling is that you'd love the book regardless of how you feel about me. I don't know. Erin, I don't know. I have, I'm neutral. I don't feel like I'm angry at you. Like Forrest, Texas boy, he was Goldwater's campaign manager, among other things, meaning I imagine her father. My sincere apologies for my passion about honoring the chase and Forrest's copyright before. You are good for the chase, and I hope you continue. Be well. I hope you and Shelley are well. Best, Erin. And she sent me a PDF file. I'm not sure if I'll see if I can find out if she wants me to share that. So the book is called Dear Dad, and apparently it's her version of a treasure hunt. I haven't read it yet, but I will this weekend, and then I'll maybe give her some comments. So here's what I'll do. I said that I would upload these things or put links to them. I don't actually have permission to do that in this letter. So Erin, if you're watching, send me another email and let me know, or I will respond to this email and ask your permission to share it with the group if that's what you'd like. So I don't know how many of you watch Man Alone. He had a prolific YouTube channel that covered a lot of topics, including the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt. He started in metal detecting and migrated from there to the Fenn treasure hunt. And then I don't know whether it was last year or 2 years ago, he had a serious heart attack. He survived it. He refers to it as a widowmaker. And since then, he's been doing other things like fishing on those, I think he's in the Midwest someplace. He doesn't. It's not a trout river. It's a bass river, um,
Lake.
and lake.
I was going to say bass are mostly in lakes.
Yeah. Well, that's see. If it isn't about trout, I don't know anything about it. Anyway, he took down his channel. He had over 400 videos on his channel, and sometime early this week or maybe last weekend, he took down his channel and literally took everything down, and didn't indicate he was coming back. He's got a new channel, and I will post that link. And I think he has two new channels, one related to the chase and one related to that was the other thing. He was into photography. So I think he may have two channels, and I'll put that link down there if you guys already haven't found it, or if one of you has seen it. Go ahead and post it in the chat room, and the chat restrictions won't let you post another link, but I'll okay it when I see it go by. This one is from Toby Fan 3000. Hi, John. Love to your wife, Karen. He says. He sends a link, and there is a new satellite company, has resolutions to 2 inches from space. Well, again, I mentioned the Keyhole project, the Keyhole set of satellites that we use for basically satellite spying, and it has a resolution of the example they've always used in presentations is a silver dollar. They can resolve a silver dollar from that location in space. And all of that information goes to the NRO, National Reconnaissance Office. And the National Reconnaissance Office was at one time parts of various agencies. There was a little bit in the CIA, there was a little bit in NSA, and then eventually they coagulated into a single agency, the NRO. And the reason I knew about it is that the NRO building is on Route 28 in Northern Virginia, about 5 minutes away from my house. So I saw it go up, and then later on I had the opportunity to visit the location. So that's resolution at NRO level if they're resolving down to 2 inches. And I don't mean their pictures are showing 2 inches above the ground. What they're saying is they can resolve an object on the ground to 2 inches. And obviously that means if the treasure chest was visible from above, it could easily be resolved at 2 inches. You could get some of that detail that's in the chest to distinguish it from the surrounding area. I do have some images that I'm going to show you that we shot at the Rio de los Pinos, and basically it's 3 images. It's exactly the same location as seen from Google Earth, as seen from a drone at 100 feet, which is the altitude I maintained when we were shooting drone footage in the Rio de los Pinos, and boots on the ground. So you're going to see all three, the same location from 3 different perspectives. So thank you for that. I'll check it out. I'll put this link in the room. I'm sorry, I'll put this link in the description box. It's a CBS News, and I can only read it from here. Private company launches largest fleet of satellites in human history to photograph Earth. So make sure when you go in your backyard, you're civilly dressed. You might end up in a satellite image. Okay, so this one is from Craig, and he says, "Hi, Toby, living in Fredericksburg, Texas, and I haven't gone boots on the ground yet. I've been watching your show on the Fenn treasure for a while now, roughly a year. I know you have stopped searching yourself, and I also know you still believe the treasure is somewhere near the New Mexico-Colorado border. There are some parts of your New Mexico theory that I agree with." Oh, thank you for using the word theory, Craig. And that I agree with, but I wanted to get your thoughts on one particular point that has been bothering me regarding the foreword written by Douglas Preston, especially the paragraph where he mentions the Denver Museum. Many searchers, including yourself, have brought up the fact that Fenn did not mention the Rockies until 2013. However, if Preston is telling the truth, which I have to assume, then clearly Forrest Fenn had a broader picture in his mind from the beginning as to where to hide the treasure, or rather, where to point the clues. It seems, at least originally, that Fenn's definition of the mountains may not have been in New Mexico at all. Sure, he ended up changing the clues, and he certainly could have hid the treasure in New Mexico anyway. But given the fact that Denver was set to be part of this solution, simply not using the word Rocky in The Thrill of the Chase, Fenn says he hid the treasure in the mountains north of Santa Fe. He didn't start using the Rockies until 2013 with the publication of Too Far to Walk. Doesn't seem to be a clue necessarily point to his home state. According to Preston's forward, Fenn was using the word mountains somewhat loosely. With all that said, I do like your general location of Osher, using the railroad there as a clue as well. I've been thinking about, we think of it, the railroad as a hint, because people are 500 feet. It fits the 500-foot hint. Using the railroad there as well. I've been thinking about finally going on a search with my son this spring, so let me know what you think. All right, Craig. So when it comes to the Denver Museum, our position on the matter is that the Denver Museum, or in another case, Preston mentioned Northern Arizona University, was it? Mm-hmm. Preston mentioned Northern Arizona University and...
Go Lumberjacks.
Is that what they are? The Lumberjacks? I had no idea. Yeah. Northern Arizona? Oh, they're in...
yeah, Lumberjacks.
Yeah. Okay.
Trust me. My nephew went there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Is Pony going to go there, or do you know yet?
No, she just accepted University of New Mexico, but she's going as a dorm student. So she's going to... she's leaving home, but...
Living on campus.
Yeah, living on campus. So we just... Jason... I had lunch with Jason and Shush today, and they just let me know that. So okay. Jason's oldest daughter, Najoni, has accepted... what do they call it? An invitation to go to University of New Mexico. So... that is neither here nor there. So back to
back to NAU.
Back to Sorry. Craig. So Craig, the way we think the Denver Museum fit into Fenn's plan was that we saw the Denver Museum as the place where he would leave a car after hiding the treasure, and so the problem with dying with the treasure, his original plan. He was going to take the treasure to a special location, which hasn't changed from the point that he identified it in his own mind and heart as a special location, and then he was going to die around it. The problem with that strategy is that he would have to park within a reasonable distance, whatever it was. In addition to that, once he didn't return home after having decided to lay down around the treasure, people would start looking for him. Just the natural, he's not going to tell people, he can't tell people, I'm taking this treasure out, I'm going to hide it, and then I'm going to die, so don't come look for me. You can't do that. So what would have happened is he would have taken the treasure, laid down to die, and then people would have started looking for him, and the place that they start looking is where his car was left. And eventually, no matter how obtuse a location you had found, his car would be found, and then they'd start looking in that area, and then, a search team would find Fenn laying in the treasure, and that wouldn't be good for his legacy. So our position on the matter of the Denver Museum or the Northern Arizona University library parking lot, is that he had to formulate a plan that removed his car from the location in which he hid the treasure. So he would hide the treasure, regardless of where it was, and this is whether it's New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, wherever you believe it is, then drive back to Denver, and then find a way using public and innocuous transportation to get back to the location of the treasure. And we actually, I think we did a show on that where we told the logic, how you'd use the bus system to get you to the Greyhound station that would get you to, and we picked a town that would get you to this town, and then you could hitchhike to the treasure because in your backpack was a fly fishing rod sticking out of it, and you were just going fishing. So we believe that was part of an original strategy to disassociate the vehicle from where he actually hid the treasure so he could go back to the treasure and hide from it. So that's how we see it fitting in. We don't see it fitting into the actual location, clues and location to the treasure. We think it is a byproduct of his desire to mask where the treasure was hidden and avoid having people find it right away. So, and we feel anytime Preston says the car would have been left at any location, that's what we think about that. Okay? So those are today's emails, and as I said, I did get a couple of links in there, so I'll put those links in the description box once this thing is processed. So if you want to go visit them, you can do that. Let me go back and see what we've got in the way of text messages.
Okay, we have a couple of questions in the chat room.
Oh, go ahead, because I forgot to turn on the Bluetooth. Go ahead.
I've got one from Justin Watts. Says, aloha, Toby and Shelley. Curious if you guys think Fenn will start any new projects, or do you think he is winding down?
Why don't you go first on that one, because we talked about it.
I think he's winding down. He's 88 years old now, and he just reported in the 6 questions that he was stepping back from answering emails, and it was quite a difficult year, and it just seems to be getting a little harder for him every year. More and more crazy stuff is happening, and it just seems like when he steps back from it a little bit, it's a little less crazy for him to have to deal with. So my opinion, he's stepping back.
I agree. I think he's stepping back, and I think there's a very strong influence for him to do so as a result of the pressure that he's getting from his family, and that's as the result of first of all, the guy showing up on his property at a time when he and his daughters were returning, and they had to deal with that. And then they've had some personal things that have gone on. I'm not going to share them with you because I wasn't given permission to, but there are some things related to his family that have to be important to him. And I think if there would be anything that would keep me from not only, so I've already decided I'm not going to look for the treasure, but I'm still here on our YouTube channel with Shelley, and we're talking about it. But if there was anything that would keep me from even doing that, where you'd see Toby disappear suddenly with an announcement that, we're done, it would be something related to my family. And I believe that's where Fenn is. He's 89 years old. He's going to be 89 in August. That's old. I mean, he's, in the latter half of his life. And his family is probably worried about, the stress of participating in a way, whether it's reading the emails, dealing with the drama, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, it is my sense that once you're involved in the search, and this is from my personal experience, it's hard to let it go. But I think what you can do is you can manage how involved you are. So I haven't let it go, but I'm not going looking for the treasure again. As a matter of fact, Jason and I had this conversation today at lunch, and he said, "What do you think?" And I said, about once every 2 weeks, I gave him my copy of The Thrill of the Chase, and I gave him my copy of the map that used to hang up here. And I tell him about once every 2 weeks, I think about calling you up and telling you that I'm picking up my book and my map again, because I get that way. But so our status is we're not going to look for the treasure until we get, until we have some sense there's this miraculous clue that appears in front of us. That may draw us back. So I found a way to regulate, if you will, our investment in time in the search. And that's our decision. I think that's what he's done. I think he's going to regulate the amount of personal time he invests in the search. And it's not like he's looking for the treasure. His personal time is related to how he responds to effectively our activities, right? The treasures, the chest isn't going anywhere. With the dynamism that is in the search, and we talked about this in one of our shows way back when, the dynamism of the search is coming from the energy that is elicited by the searchers. And there's a point at which the searchers become the most powerful entity, the group of searchers generating all that energy in the search, all that conversation, all that communication is probably the most important thing. And so at what point do you step back and you say, you know what, between family, my age, and not being so public and visible, how far back can I step? And I think he can step pretty far back, up to the occasional, the New Yorker comes to ask for an interview. I believe he'll do an interview with the New Yorker or Nightline or anybody else. I think there's a part of him that probably just can't avoid that. And so I think on a scale of 0 to 100, where 100 is I'm out of this completely and I'm going on with the rest of my life, and 0 is I'm Forrest Fenn, come and get my treasure. I think he stepped back to about the 90th, 95th percentile. He's alive, and I don't believe he'll go away. in a public way, I think we'll hear from him occasionally. But he said he's not going to answer emails. He's not going to produce any more written documents. He's stepping back, and I feel like that's for him. Wow, I don't know what happened there. Can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I can.
I had a pop in my audio.
Mm-hmm.
For him, that's probably the right thing to do. So, you can't be Forrest Fenn and step 100% back from this, but you can be Forrest Fenn and step 95% back from this, and I think that's what he's suggesting he's doing. So.
And Tom K says, when did Forrest Fenn open his gallery?
Well, he claimed, so the story, I can't give you an accurate, maybe somebody in the room has more accurate than me. He moved to Santa Fe in 1972 after spending 2 years in the Lubbock, Texas area, where he left the Air Force in 1970. He moved to Santa Fe in 1972. I don't know how soon after that. It wasn't a long time after that he purchased what turned out to be Fenn Galleries. Now, when he purchased it, if you knew Santa Fe, Fenn Galleries ended up on a curve of what was the equivalent of the beltway of Santa Fe, around the Santa Fe main part of town, called the Paseo de Peralta. And Fenn Galleries was just another gallery that was actually off Canyon Road, like there's some theaters that are off Broadway. At the time, Fenn Galleries was off Canyon Road, which is the main area in which the gallery started forming. And but then came Paseo de Peralta. He suffered the development of that. His gallery had to suffer because of all the construction. It went between the PERA building and where his gallery was, but then it was like the main thoroughfare around Santa Fe, going right past his gallery. So I would say that he made the purchase in the early 70s, 72, 73, and then began developing it, and it probably got very active, by the time the 80s came around. So, but it was pretty early. In his move to Santa Fe. So if anybody has any other details on that story, please add it to the chat room.
LouJack37 says, any word on if Forrest Fenn plans to publish his book of Taos stories? Taos.
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I haven't either. Not since he talked about it, years ago.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything since then. I am getting a serious pop. I don't know whether it's a shock or in my headset.
Silver Fox. Well, that's not a question, is it? Nope, that's not a question. I thought I saw one more question. Nope. Oh.
What was
Sorry.
that?
I was just looking for questions, and then I thought I had seen one, but then I lost it. So yeah, if you have a question for us to answer, make sure you start it with @AGK.
So, they say they're hearing the pop too. I don't know. Did my sound change for you?
Mm-mm.
It sounds a little bit rougher for some reason. I'm not sure why. Like something went goofy there. It's his headset. I'm not happy with his headset. Okay, so before I go on to reading the text message, I promised you that I was going to show you some images about the difference between Google Earth, our drone shot, and being boots on the ground. So what I'm about to share with you is three separate images. The first images is a screen capture from Google Earth of an area we call the island on the Rio de los Pinos. The second shot is exactly the same location, but the close-up of a drone shot from about 100 feet. And then the last shot I'm going to show you is the exact same location, except it's from the boots on the ground perspective. So you can see how the detail increases, and why it was so important for us to use the drone, because the drone gives us additional information, additional intelligence that we wouldn't otherwise have. How do I sound to you? I'm really sounding bad in here. Something went really bad with these.
I I I don't hear anything
Okay.
unusual.
All right. All right. All right. So,
Joe says he heard the pop,
okay.
so I don't know.
So, oops, that's not what I want to do. So let me open this. Okay. So I'm going to transition, and this is what you're going to see. You won't be able to see Shelly and I. You'll just be able to hear my voice. So this is an image of an area on the Rio de los Pinos in the Colorado New Mexico state line actually intersects this island at an angle from, in this case, it would be, let's see, that would be east to west or vice versa. Anyway, the state line intersects this island. We call it the island. So that's the best image I could get from Google Earth. If I go back, here's an image of exactly, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this area right here. I don't know if you can see it on the screen. So I'm going to show you this area. So about half the year, this little side stream has running water in it. And then about the other half of the year, it looks like this. It's dry. So what I'm going to show you is a drone image of this area right here at the end of the island, and you're going to see the additional detail. So let me go back and, okay. So that's a drone shot from about 100 feet of that little section that I pointed out just before. Now, the stream actually goes higher up. This is a secondary stream right here. But that was the island on which we hid that coin. Wow. That was the island on which we hid that coin that Jack Selvage found and let me know when we were doing the Jamie Jordan's live stream back in, what was that, November, was it? Okay, so August. So that's no, September, October, September. We did it on September 16th. We do it
August.
Oh, okay. All right.
Or was it September?
Yeah, I think it was September. So
yeah.
That's the same intersection of where, and this is where that little stream had some water in it because it was high enough. But you can see the detail that you get, the difference in detail that you get between Google Earth and a drone at 100 feet. I could have flown it lower, of course. I can fly it as low as I want. But I've discovered that about 100 feet gives me the kind of mapping intelligence or information that I need. And then finally, see this spot right here? Those look like human trails. They're not human trails. They're cow trails. Every time we go there, there's cows grazing in this area. We don't see humans, but there's got to be humans someplace because they're free ranging that area because it's national forest, and so somebody has a contract with the national forest that gives them permission to have their cows graze on that land, and it's beautiful grazing land. I mean, there's lots of green grasses at this time of the year. So that's the same area right there, and then this is what that spot looks like. Didn't want to do that. Now you're going to see all my email. Let's change that real quick. Hang on. Hit the wrong button. Okay, so let me open this up. And that's Shelly and Kevin on exactly that end of that island. And you can see how different it looks once your boot's on the ground. So for everyone who believes that they found Forrest Fenn's treasure by doing a Google Earth lookup, the difference between what you're seeing on Google Earth, which is this, and what you're seeing from an altitude of 100 feet, which is this, and what you're seeing when your boot's on the ground, which is this, is significantly different. So we're always hesitant when we hear someone has said they found a picture of the chest on Google Earth. But maybe with the help of this company that Toby Fan 3000 referred us to, if it's resolving at 2 inches. So I'll post this up there so you guys can see. It's a CBS News report. So, okay. So let me go back to here. And that's us. Okay. Any more questions? Did you have questions, Sean?
Let's see. There was one that I'm pretty sure we don't know the answer to, but I'll read it out loud.
Okay.
Richard Holmberg says, "Where did Forrest Fenn go for spiritual healing when he was diagnosed with cancer?" And I don't know.
Yeah. I don't, first of all, I don't know that he did, but I have no, um, uh, I have no idea where it was, if it was. I have no idea if he is that spiritual, right? That he went looking for spiritual support.
We have two more questions.
Okay, go ahead. Wow.
Really busy in the chat
Sorry.
room.
Yeah.
Tom K says, when Forrest Fenn opened his shop, Peggy used to go fishing for dinner. Do you know the spot or area or river?
Wow. Well, so if the shop that you're referring to is uh, his gallery in Santa Fe, uh, there is a river that goes through Santa Fe, the Santa Fe River. It has never, since as long as I recall, it's always kind of been a showy river. Most of the time, it's dry, and it's certainly not healthy enough to catch to host trout. Every once in a while, they let the it's actually from one of the Santa Fe. It's a stream that comes from one of the Santa Fe rivers, and about once a year they used to let it run, and they'd put some trout in there so that kids, you had to be a kid in order, you had to be 12 or under in order to fish. And I remember doing this as a child, but that's the only time there's ever fish in the Santa Fe River. So the two closest places then that you can go trout fishing are the Pecos River, which is about 20. Let's see. By the time you get to the fishing area, you've probably driven 35 miles. And then the next nearest river is the Rio Grande, and you have to fish above Espanol, um, uh, the San, is it the San Juan that runs into it? Or the Rio Chama, one or the other, because it gets dirty after that. So the nearest fishing place is in the gorge right around Pilar. So those are two long drives to go trout fishing. If you're going trout fishing, perhaps that was a reference to the time that he spent in Lubbock and or Temple, because in Temple you're not far from the Lampasas River, and the Lampasas River I know holds warm water fish like catfish. And I actually fished the Lampasas River for catfish with I think I told this story the other night with a gentleman who was the landlord to the house that I lived in when I was at Fort Hood. So,
Okay. Christina Jarrett asks, when did he last confirm it has not been found? And people are saying the 6 questions.
yeah, the 6 questions, he says that it was still there. The treasure still rests. If you, I have the 6 questions somewhere.
And he answered those questions in mid to late January.
Yeah, she used to send them to him, I think, around mid-January, and he would get back to him in time for her to publish them on February 4th. So I would say sometime between mid and late January, he responded that the treasure is still where he left it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Um, Rusty Nibbles says, any update on ownership if it's found in Yellowstone?
well, if it's found in Yellowstone and you do what's legally required of you, you have to turn it over to the park supervisor, and then they go through the process of reconciling ownership. And if they determine at the end of that reconciliation process that ownership has been determined to be yours, you'll get the treasure then. But that hasn't changed. That's a set of laws that haven't changed. The only way you can avoid that is by sneaking out of Yellowstone with the treasure, and then never mentioning where you found it. Because once you mention that you found it in Yellowstone, you'll have to go through the same ownership reconciliation process, and who knows how long. Now, there is a chance, especially if you dug it out of the ground in Yellowstone, that you would never get ownership of it, assuming that you did everything legally, and it would become the property of the federal government and therefore the property of the American people. And one day we might see it in one of the Smithsonian museums. So, but that hasn't changed. Mm-hmm. That those laws have not changed in decades.
Elusive wants to know, isn't there a percentage chance that Forrest Fenn's treasure is simply a metaphor, a catalyst used to get people to enjoy the outdoors and his favorite places? If so, what is that percentage? That it's a metaphor,
Wow.
not a treasure.
So there is a chance that is nothing more than a metaphor, and it could be argued by anyone as to what the percentage possibility is. That it depends how strong your faith is, right? So that's what it boils down to. If your faith is strong, then you can't find yourself believing that it's a metaphor, that there really is a treasure that you're investing all this time and money in. I will tell you that Shelley and I, well, I'll speak for myself. You can speak for yourself. That I believe the treasure, as described by Fenn on more than one occasion, does exist. I do not believe it is a metaphor for getting people out, because you could have done that other ways other than promoting the idea that you've hidden a treasure chest. But it is possible, and I think the percentage probability is arguable. I don't. The argument would depend. The people in the room arguing the percent probability that it's a metaphor would have their own opinions on what percentage probability. I don't think it's 50-50. I think there's a, in my opinion, there's a somewhere between 1 and 5% probability that it's a metaphor. But then that would mean I shouldn't have spent 32 recons in 5 years and 300 videos and 500 blog posts on the matter. That would have been silly. You know? What do you think? What's the probability? What, in your opinion, what's the probability that it's a metaphor?
I think that's probably the one thing that's not a metaphor.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's the one solid thing in the whole search.
Yeah.
Everything is the metaphor. So Brandon Main says, do you believe that this treasure will be found this year, and how many boots on the ground trips do you have planned?
We do not, I do not believe that the treasure will be found this year. I am of the opinion that it will not be found in Fenn's lifetime. But again, that's my opinion. We are going boots on the ground, but not looking for treasure. We are going boots on the ground to go trout fishing. We are returning to the Rio de los Pinos, and that's because the Rio de los Pinos in both Colorado and New Mexico is prime trout fishing river. We were there, I don't know, 5 or 6 times this year, multiple days in each case, and we never did. I think we got out of all that time, we got 1 day to do some trout fishing, and that was after the trout had died because of the heat wave that they had experienced. So I'm going back. I am at least going back to the Rio de los Pinos. I'm going to try and convince Shelley and Kevin to go with me so that we can do some trout fishing in that area. But we're not going to spend time looking for the treasure. I won't. I've said. So here's my position on looking for the treasure. I am not going to look for the treasure again because honestly, I don't know where it is. I will not look for the treasure again until the miraculous event that occurs that resolves all 9 of the clues in the poem for me, and then I'll go look. But honestly, I'm not anywhere near that. I'll admit publicly, I have no idea what the 9 clues in the poem are, and I have no idea what the 9 clues in the poem represent in physical terms. So.
Tony F says, did he say it took 2 days to hide it, or 2 days to hide it and come back to Santa Fe? He said he did it in 1 afternoon, and it took 2 trips from the car to hide it.
I've never heard either one of those, Tony. As Shelley said, he said that it took him an afternoon, and that he made 2 trips back and forth to the car so a total of 4 times.
Robert Zielinski says, what is your take on the umbilical comment?
I didn't, I have never, I don't mean to dismiss the importance of anything that you read, but I have never found the same sort of depth and value in anything that Fenn has responded to in any of the questions, whether it is the 6 questions that appeared every year, or the questions that he would get asked. Jenny was hosting people who had questions for Fenn, and he would respond to them. I think I'm pretty sure it was one of her questions. The one that I thought that was the most valuable of all of them was the response to the question about why he couldn't hide a treasure someplace other than the Rocky Mountains. And that's when the little girl from India appeared. And when he said the little girl from India can't get past the first two clues. So to me, that was probably the most valuable thing. But other than that, I don't have the same commitment to the level of intelligence that he's providing in these things. So I don't mean to dismiss any importance to anyone you can take out of what he says, but I don't. To me, the use of the word umbilical was a way to describe how he feels connected to that location, and that he hasn't lost that commitment to it. There is a place on the Pecos River, and Shelley knows exactly where it is, that I am umbilically connected to, because it is where I used to stand on the bridge and watch my father trout fish, and with such intensity. And so when I go to the Pecos, I stop every time. I stop there. Sometimes I trout fish, but sometimes it's just to walk down to the river and bring back the memory of that time that I spent with my father. So I think all of us have those kinds of locations that we are connected to umbilically. On the other hand, I was born and raised in Santa Fe. I spent the first, counting the time that I was in college at UNM, I spent the first 20 some years in Santa Fe, and I have no sense of umbilical connection to Santa Fe, which I know sounds strange, but I feel more umbilically connected to my home in Virginia, my location, the time that I spent in Virginia raising my family and working in Washington, D.C., than I do to Santa Fe. So even here in New Mexico, I feel umbilically connected to Virginia. So.
Okay. Elusive says, do you think Forrest Fenn wants it to be found while he's alive? And Elle actually responded, I think it's a good response, says, Forrest has said he's ambivalent.
He has responded that he's ambivalent of whether he wants it found while he's still alive. If it was me and I had hidden a treasure that I had identified as part of my legacy, I would want it to be found as late in the history of time as possible. Because as long as the treasure remains hidden, the legacy of Forrest Fenn remains visible. So the minute that treasure is hidden, not that it goes completely away, but in order to sustain his legacy, it is necessary for that treasure to remain unrecovered.
Journeyman says, is New Mexico going to remain in a drought this year, or is the forecast better? We have had more snow this year than we did last year.
So the New Mexico never gets a lot of rain. New Mexico is a state of semi-permanent drought, where what we count on for our water is the winter snowpack. So even though we may not get any water during the year, we may not get water in the form of rain during the year, as long as the snowpack is healthy, the water is, we're guaranteed to have water. Whether or not that works for farmers, if you look at New Mexico, you'll see the Rio Grande and a green strip along the Rio Grande. That green strip is all the farming that occurs along the Rio Grande. Any farming that's not there is supported by another small stream, and then you see the big crop circles, or whatever they're called, the agriculture circles, that are fed with not necessarily with river water, with groundwater. But New Mexico is in a permanent state of quasi drought, but it is alleviated by the snowpack. So 2 years ago we had a miserable snow year. I said we had a very light snow year, so water was down. But this year we've had a lot of strong snow in the northern mountains, so that creates a snowpack that ends up in Albuquerque via the Rio Chama, as a matter of fact. I was on the Rio Chama one time, Jason and I, and we were near the Cooper's Ranch store, where the home of the biggest brown trout. And I started talking to a gentleman, and it turned out he was the water master for that area. And he told me, I don't know how we started on the conversation. He told me that that Albuquerque, where we were, he asked where we were from, and he told me the complex story about how the snowpack comes into the various reservoirs up there, El Vado being one of them, and then 25% of the Chama River is dedicated to providing the water that ends up in Albuquerque via the Rio Grande. The Rio Grande flows through the center of Albuquerque. As a matter of fact, it's a mile that way from me. But by the time it gets down here, it's no longer fishable. The water is warmer, it's siltier because of the farming that takes place from about Espanola down. And but we get our water from the snowpack via the Rio Chama every year, and we've had a good snowpack this year. So whether or not we get any rain is not half as important. I mean, rain is nice because it cools things down, but we're not like Seattle, where we get rain every 1 or 2 days. We're like New Mexico, where we get rain especially in Albuquerque, where we get rain every, during the season, we get rain every, 10 days, and then it's for 5 minutes. So it's really funny because Shelley, who at the moment lives about, 20 miles as the crow flies?
Me?
Yeah.
15.
15 miles as the crow flies. But she lives up on top of the mesa. She actually gets much more variety of weather than we do down here in the valley, down in the river valley. So she'll text Instagram a photo of snowfall where she's at, and a yard covered with snow, and I'm looking out my window here, and we got nothing. So that's not unusual.
But yes, we have more precipitation this year than we did last year.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we have hopes that we'll have more water.
Yeah. More questions, or can I go to the?
Well, I have more questions.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Tony F wants to know, if someone finds it, doesn't report it, and gets caught with it, is it a crime? Would they go to jail or get double fined?
So you're in a position at that point. So let's say you find it, you recover the treasure, you take it home, and then you make an announcement. Everybody's going to want to know where you found it. Your response to that should be your Fifth Amendment response. I don't have to say anything that's going to incriminate me. And then what you have to do is argue with whatever government decides to do this, whether or not the treasure belongs to you, because there is no evidence one way or the other. There is no evidence one way or the other where the treasure is hidden. And so as long as you recover it and don't say anything until you're back home or wherever you decide you want to do that, if you choose to do that, then it's a matter of the local government deciding, well, we're going to tax that. And they may be able to tax it just based on ownership. You are going to have to pay taxes. Once you announce it, there's going to be a tax situation. So if you find it and your home is in New Mexico, you're going to end up dealing with Bernalillo County taxes, New Mexico's taxes, income taxes, and federal income taxes. And my advice to you is make sure that however they do it. So you might be able to negotiate with them. Let's say you want to sell it at auction. So you could negotiate with the tax collectors from the state and federal government, and you can say, I'll pay taxes on the sale. They may choose to say, no, we're going to value it first, and we're going to charge you taxes based on that. So you're going to have to do that. But you're not going to have an issue related to possession, related to your possession based on recovery, right, where you found it, if you never say where you found it, right? So the moment you say where you found it, you're going to find people coming after you, whether they are the government entities or private entities, because lots of people will lay claim to that as their solution or whatever. So you're better off not saying where you found it. I don't think, as long as you negotiate with the government of how you're going to pay the taxes, then I don't think it's necessary for you to say where you found it. And if somebody asks, you can say, our planned response was, we found it where Forrest Fenn hid it. That's, you're not, as long as you can avoid saying anything, and that's why it's so important for the one person can keep a secret if everybody else around them is dead. So what I recommend is that if you have a partner, shoot them as soon as possible, so that that you.
Hey.
wouldn't do that.
Better not.
No, I wouldn't. We've got our plan if we ever go out again and look for it. So, okay.
So John Werner says, did Forrest even mention remorse from the war and life taken from the bombing he participated in? Most veterans don't talk about it. What's your opinion?
I think most veterans don't talk about it for the reason, and the reason is because it is a deep and dark hole inside whatever they believe to be their soul. I carry the weight of that. I know most veterans who were in combat and who caused the loss of life carry the weight of that. Some of them are spiritual enough to believe that it's in their soul. I'm not that kind of spiritual, but I do believe it's a weight that I carry. And you kind of spend the rest of your life looking for ways to gain universal, karmic forgiveness, recovering for that. There is justification. You were doing, as a military professional, you were doing what you had chosen to do and what your government, your nation asked you to do. But there is nothing good about taking another person's life, even if it's someone who's trying to take your life. So I think part of the chapter, My War for Me, was part of that entire chapter is some sense of reconciliation, some sense of letting go. I think the story where he talks about having gone on a bombing run and he had some weaponry left and he sees a group of people on the ground and he decides to fly low over them to determine whether or not he could do damage, and then he realizes that it's a funeral. Now it's a North Vietnamese funeral, but a funeral nonetheless, and his response was to fly out of the air. He realizes that he's disrupted them by flying so low. Unbeknownst to them, the reason he was flying so low was that he was planning to use whatever remained of his weaponry on them, and it made him feel so bad. He claims in the book, he says in the book that it caused him to cry. And that's that feeling that you get when you realize these are human beings. And I think it's even worse for pilots who have a less a more esoteric connection with their targets on the ground. They don't see faces. They don't see people. They see objects that are surrounded by people, and sometimes they don't when they're traveling at the altitudes and speeds that they do, but they do their job. And any American who decides to join the service and enter into whatever combat it is, you choose to do the job that you've been given. So I think any person like Fenn who has spent time in combat, and that's what it was, experiences some level of remorse. And you spend the rest of your life, on the other hand, there's people that are driven crazy by it. But if you haven't been driven crazy by it, you spend pretty much the rest of your life trying to be good, moral, and taking care of your family and those things. And you get a sense of that's what he did. I don't think necessarily it was required for him to make up for his time in the service. None of us who spent time in the service should feel that way. But I think you can't walk away from it without feeling something and feeling like you have to do something else. And I think upon our passing, upon his passing, upon my passing, I feel like we won't. One of the last thoughts we want to have is that we after that period of time, we went the rest of our lives without creating harm or hurting other people. So I think that's how he feels about it. And I think I can speak. I'm not speaking for him. I'm speaking for myself. And speaking for myself, I can say that it was important for me to make sure that after those 2 years in Vietnam, that I'd led the best possible life I could.
We have a question from LouJack37. Assuming you found the treasure after Fenn is no longer around and that AGK Media has continued to grow, is the treasure worth more to you recovered or left alone?
Oh, interesting question. Well, so the honest answer is, in terms of AGK Media, not that we're a big channel anyway, it's more valuable to us unrecovered because then we have a story to tell. We have Friday night Fenndangos. We have a lot of things that we get to do that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do had the treasure been found. My sense is, a lot of it depends on what the person who finds the treasure does. If the person who finds the treasure decides not to reveal it, then we could go on forever. And I suppose you could start making a connection. Toby and Shelley found the treasure, but they're not telling us because they want to grow AGK. AGK will never be as valuable, and I think I can say this without Shelley contradicting me. AGK will likely never be as valuable as the whatever's in that treasure, and however you decide, if we had it, decided to dispose of it, to monetize it, if you will. So if you're going in that direction, no. If we had the treasure, we would monetize it as quickly as possible, and we would start. AGK would go away because we'd have bunches of other things to do.
All right. I think you can go ahead and answer your texts now.
Okay. So, yeah, because I am getting a lot of them. So let me answer the text messages, and then if we have questions in the room, we can go back to them. Okay? So, let's see.
Do you want to say hello to Andrew Talentine from Australia, though? Hello.
Hi. Is that our friend from... That's not the same name, right? That's not the comic chef?
Fire.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't know his name. Andrew Talentire.
Oh, from Australia. So we have a guest from Australia. Yeah. Adam Foddy's in the room, so we have a guest from the UK. Have you seen Michael recently?
Not tonight.
Okay.
Not tonight.
So, hey, Toby. So for those asking, Jay Talking Libra's solve was Ouray Park, Ice Park in Colorado. I don't know if you guys remember. It was actually a couple weeks ago. Her YouTube channel came up as a topic of a conversation, but I know right after it came up as a topic of conversation, she took it down. So her handle was Jay Talking Libra, but I haven't seen or heard from her since after she took her channel down. So, so this is from Chris. I'm the one pulling ball up to Bell. Oh, I don't know what that means. I got it all. It started with art he sold for $15,000 and watched hammer at auction for $1,200,000. Ouch, right? I took the poem, ran it, then the decipher ran it. Then I figured the 7 blank letters that are key words in the poem, azimuth bearing. After running numbers, I got coordinates, sent Fenn this information, and boy, oh boy, it's over. Well, Chris, let us know so that we can go do something else with our show.
We're actually in the process of that. So, if you guys find it this summer, we'll be ready.
Yeah, we've got options, huh?
Yeah.
Let's see, from 210, some redneck in Texas. Forrest has said that if he was standing where the treasure is, he can see desert and smell pine needles and Pinot nuts. How cute. Pinot like in Pinot Noir. Pinot nuts. This is from Danny in Atascosa, Texas. Haven't heard the name. I saw that statement on Terry Scant while researching. Are you all familiar with the statement? Anyone? Well, 2 things. That's not quite the statement, Danny. I don't think he used the word desert in all of that. I think it was pine trees, sagebrush, and the smell of pinon. And then a short time after that, he retracted that particular combination as he was criticized for putting the 3 of those things together. And people criticized it as being unlikely. So he retracted that statement. Okay, this is... Oh, you know what?
So Robert Zielinski missed your what happened to Man Alone. You said he just restarted his channel, right?
Yeah. So Man Alone had a channel that had a variety of topics, including the Forrest Fenn treasure. And it was called Man Alone. And he, about a week ago, well, within the last week, he took it all down. But he has since restarted, and I think it's 2 channels. I think I got 2 different emails from him. One was a channel that seemed to be dedicated to the Fenn treasure, and another was a channel that seemed to be dedicated to his photography, which is one of the topical areas he was dealing that he had before he took it down. So the bad thing the bad thing about that is you lose the value. He had over 1,000 subscribers and probably had over 4,000 hours of watch time. That means he could have monetized Man Alone. But when you decide to drop all of that and split it up, you don't get the benefit of those things. You have to start from scratch all over, again. But I will post the links to his new channels in the description box below when this is completed processing. So I've got a voicemail. I'm going to play it just so we can do an audio test because we didn't get a chance to audio test the voicemail before we started. Mm-hmm. So tell me if this works.
Toby, this is Mr. T. Give me a call if you get this message soon enough here. I'm in Kansas and it's 9:00 p.m. 6079296.
Sorry, Mr. T. Didn't mean to do that. So he sent me that message on Wednesday. So if you're leaving me a voicemail, it is rare that I will get back to you. Leave the voicemail with a question, and I'll respond to the question. But let's see. I guess I have to. Voicemail from Steve Barnes. Steve Barnes is one of our Udemy students, but he's also one of the individuals that's talking about starting a show on our channel. And he and we have been going through a negotiation where we're going to have our first teleconference, and we just haven't seemed to be able to do it just yet. All right, so let's see what we got here. Oh, long voicemails. Oh, it's 2 different voicemails. All right, let's see what we got here. So is this the first one? Let's see.
Okay, pros in the house.
Hi, Toby. The reason why I'm calling, I guess, is because I guess I'm the person you've been looking for that got the hiding place of the treasure, I guess, per se. And I just, I haven't been out there because obviously it's too cold and it's frozen. It's a tundra out there. And I'm not going until it gets a little bit warmer. So I'll try again when it's a little bit more accessible to you. I guess you're probably there during the day. And I work nights, so obviously I'm a night person. So, all right, well, I guess I'll try you again tomorrow. You take care. Bye-bye now.
All right, so that's from area code 815. And so whenever you call our toll-free number, if it's not during the show and I've opened up...
Sounded like Heather, Dawn. Was that you, Heather?
No.
No?
Well, she says it's Debbie.
Oh, Debbie. Oh,
Debbie.
Okay. Sorry.
So if you're calling at a time that isn't during the show, it will go to voicemail. When we're not doing the show, the 800 number goes straight to voicemail if you're calling. Oh, there's a second call. Okay, let's see what she says in this one.
Hi, Toby. I just looked at my schedule, and I do work tomorrow, so I won't be able to call you then. So I'm looking to call you call you right back now. Anyhow, I'm really sorry. I didn't realize that there was so much of a thing about me not saying who I was or anything, but I wanted to apologize about that. I just didn't know. And also, I do have tickets to go ahead and go out there in March, late March, to go ahead and get it. And at that time, then I guess I'm supposed to bring it to a ranger. So that's what I'm getting from the messages that I decoded or whatever. So anyhow, so that's that, and that's all I can tell you for right now. Until late March, and until then, I will see you later, or I will see you on YouTube because I watch you. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay, so if you're watching, I don't know where you're going, but late March is still going to be, the snow is still going to be on the ground. It doesn't clear up in New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana until April, and then depending on how far north you are. So if you know where the treasure is, then go get it. Let us know, and if you'd like to be on our channel to talk about your recovery, we'll be happy to do that for you. We'll be happy to share in that.
The first time we went to Rio de los Pinos was the end of April, and then we still got stopped by snow and ice.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we had to wait until late May, right?
Yeah, but
Before.
I think that's because we were about 10,000 feet at that point, weren't
Yeah,
we?
yeah, we were. That was at about 10,000 feet. Okay, so this is a text message. It says, I'm not sure if you're on tonight and I'm traveling. My question is, since Forrest is stepping back and it's possible that the treasure might not be found before he passes, are his kids and grandchildren going to honor the person who finds the chest, or will there be an issue? As I understand it, ownership, title of ownership transfers. Fenn has arranged, however, he has arranged it, whether it's in his poem or in a document in the chest, the title transfers to the person who finds it. And his family could lay claim to it, but I've got a sense that they're not that kind of people. So, although anything is possible, I get a sense that they are simply not that kind of people.
Yeah, but you never know. Once people die, people change.
Well, so in the case of the family, I think the other thing about the family is that they've pretty much had as much of the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt as they need to have. So,
Yeah, as they can handle.
Susan, oh, this is from RF Hecky.
Oh,
Susie.
okay.
Hi, Toby. Do you still have your Too Far to Walk book? Yes. What version do you have? I don't know, but I'll look it up and I'll respond to the text message. On the map with the text at the top, within the highlighted region, the word highlighted is missing a G on later printings of Too Far to Walk, but it was correct on the first print. Map poem missing S. If it was a typo, why not correct it? This is a treasure hunt. Details matter. What do you think? I wasn't aware of that distinction in the map. I'll check my Too Far to Walk after tonight. I think the challenge is that there was a difference between the publishing of Too Far to Walk and the publishing of the map that was inserted in Too Far to Walk. In addition to that, I don't know if the same, and I don't have my copy of the map anymore. I have to get that back from Jason. He's going to kill me. So I don't know the answer to your question right now. It means that I'm going to have to go check my copy of Too Far to Walk, which I do have, and I'll look at the map then, find out all of these things. And you're right, details do matter. The challenge is that if you're like Fenn and you're self-publishing, the fact that mistakes get through, and we know there are mistakes in all three books, the fact that mistakes get through is highly likely because you're self-publishing. He's not going to a professional publishing company that has a dozen editors working on it. So, and even then, I mean, you can look at books that make the New York Times bestseller list, and if you read the book, eventually you're going to find a mistake that got by everybody. I don't think I've ever read a book that didn't have a mistake that got by everybody. Whether or not it means something in terms of the Fenn treasure is another question. Now, you also know that we feel everything that was published after December 2010, we don't put any value in terms of finding the treasure. We believe everything that you need to know is in the book and the poem, and that after that is just, I want to say white noise, but that makes it sound evil. It's to us, it's unimportant. So you can get caught up in things like this, but we don't think you need to. That's our opinion. So this is from James in Texas. Do you think Fenn will tell a family member where it is before he passes, and why? I do not. That destroys the legacy. I don't think necessarily that the family wants to have anything to do with it. As a matter of fact, the sooner they can get the farthest away from this whole Fenn treasure hunt, I think it is the better for them. I think they're not. It is my opinion that his family, is not anywhere near as excited about the Fenn treasure hunt as Fenn was. And I think if he had known how difficult, what the impact that it would have on his family, he may have chosen not to do that. So I don't think it's likely that he's going to tell anyone. And if for no other reason, then why go through all the trouble of doing this with the idea of a legacy that lasts for hundreds or thousands of years? Not that he said that, but and then tell your family at the end so that they can either imagine if Shiloh, upon Fenn's passing, not that we want that to happen anytime soon, that if upon Fenn's passing, Shiloh goes on the news and said, by the way, Forrest told me where the treasure is. That that would destroy whatever remained of the Fenn legacy, I think. So I can't imagine him doing that. So this is Tom from Southern California. Okay, when Forrest opened his gallery, Peggy used to go out fishing to come home for their dinner. Oh, okay. This is, he sent a, oh, it's a voicemail. Let's see. Let's see what it sounds in voice. Because he asked the question in the chat room, right? That's the same question.
That's the same question I asked, yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let's see what it sounds like.
This is Tom from Southern California, Tom K. When Forrest opened his gallery, Peggy used to go out fishing to come home for their dinner. Do you know where she went? The name of the place or the spot or the area? Thank you.
The answer is no, Tom. I don't. But if you're going, I mean, my father and I used to go fishing on the Pecos. He'd come home from work, he'd change clothes, we'd go up to the Pecos, and if it was after work, even if he left early because he owned the business, we would go up there, and by the time we got home, it was dark and everybody was asleep. They would have dinner without us. So the likelihood that she was going as far as Pecos, which is basically the closest you could go to go fishing, I can't think of any place else. Maybe someplace in Hyde Park, but there is no local fishing in Santa Fe. You have to drive someplace if you want to go trout fishing in Santa Fe. The Santa Fe River is not, as I said in response to that earlier, the Santa Fe River is not a fishing river. It's a park. It's a local park. As a matter of fact, we've picnicked there, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the end of the text questions. We're at 8:22, so we have about a half hour. And let me open up the phone line. So if you want to call in, and by the way, it sounded to me like you were able to hear the voicemails. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's open up the phone lines here. One quick thing. Boom. One button. Okay, phone lines are open. You can call toll-free, 866-597-9901. And if you want to talk about Forrest Fenn or Shelley Carney or Toby Younis, we can do any of that. So call us and we'll talk about them. So we have a lot of people in the room tonight. So the sooner the better. Did you say K-Pro was in the room?
She is, yes.
Oh, so let's do K-Pro. So you who we haven't seen in a while is Sean Martinez. I wonder how he must be very busy with his business because I haven't seen him anyplace for a while.
Yeah. Well, he's posted on Facebook this week, but like just once that I know of.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know he was getting busy, and he's in. I think he performs investigative services for other attorneys, so that'll keep you busy. So for those of you that didn't see our Wednesday night panel, where we covered with panel members Cynthia Meacham, Michael Houle, Jonathan Jones, and Matt Brewer, we talked about the 6 questions and Fenn's answers to them. If you get a chance, go back and watch that video. It was a really good session. We had some great panelists on that night, and I thought a lot of what they said was very insightful. And each one of them kind of has a different personality and approach to all of this, and so you get the 4 different perspectives. I try to stay out of the conversation as much as possible. Shelley is there to perform producer's duties, and so we just we give the time over to the panel members. So get a chance. Yeah. Hey, K-Pro, how are you doing? I see you. You're in there now. So I thought it was a really good show. It was a good way to come back. So we're working on next week's panel now. I don't have a title for you, but we're working on it. We'll be back on Wednesday night at 7 p.m.
We have a question from Tony, and don't forget the phone lines are open, so you can call right now while we're still going through the chat. But we have a question from Tony F. He says, has Forrest ever said that if it is found, he has a safeguard to know right away, or would he just have to rely on someone speaking up?
So I can give you my opinion on the matter. I don't know necessarily that there is any technical way that Forrest would know immediately upon the recovery of the treasure. There have been theories on that, everything from cameras to GPS devices, et cetera, but you've got a problem with batteries. The batteries just wouldn't last that long, especially if it goes longer than the few years that it's been out there. So I think when he first at Moby Dickens, in the Moby Dickens video, where he first brought up the point about the turquoise bracelet, and that he would appreciate, he says in that video that he really realized that was something that he wanted to keep, and he's asked people to return the turquoise bracelet. I think that was the plan. I think that's as much as he's going to do. But he also has to realize that at some point he is going to have passed, and if the treasure is recovered after he's passed, then he's never going to know. It's going to be up to the searcher to determine how they do that. And there's lots of ways, and there's constant discussion. Sorry, let me
Telephone.
let me answer that and then turn it down. So, caller, give me a second so I can turn down the ringer on my phone before we start talking, because that was really loud. And caller, while we're doing that, make sure you turn down the audio on your computer so that you don't get any feedback. How's that? Is that better, Shel?
Yes.
Okay. All right, caller. This is AGK Media with Forrest Fenn Fenndango. Who's calling and where are you calling from? Oh, no. Dang nabbit.
Well, we got the ringer turned down, though.
Yeah, we did get the ringer turned down.
We lost our caller. Call back.
Call back, caller, so we can have that conversation. So that was from area code 404. I don't know where that's from. Okay, so we do have another couple of comments. So let's see. Check this arrowhead out. It must be a link. I don't know it. So let's see. So this is from Paul. He says, when dining in the Old House restaurant in Santa Fe, the Old House, the Pink Adobe Old House restaurant, how would you describe the atmosphere? In my 7 years in Santa Fe, when I lived behind Borders Bookstore, frequented that place. Do you know where they came up with a name for that restaurant? Casa Vieja. I don't, Paul, I'm sorry. It sounds like a recent addition to Santa Fe. And I haven't lived in Santa Fe in years, since the 1969.
La Casa Vieja.
I guess. Is there a restaurant called La Casa Vieja? He says the Old House restaurant. So.
Oh, yeah. There is a La Casa Vieja, but I've never been there. I don't know how long it's been there.
Wasn't Paul in the chat room a while ago? He says, is there some reason you blocked me, or is it my computer? I need to know. It's your computer, Paul. If you did block me from making comments, please forward me an email that in case I'm confused. I was sure you're not blocked.
Talking about Paul Wood?
No, Paul Ammons.
Oh.
Well, he was in the room a while ago. Go ahead and make a comment. You are not blocked, Paul. So it might be your computer. So our 404 we missed. Son of a gun. So
okay.
Call back 404 so we can have that. 404 is Atlanta, says Stephen.
Well, Copper Dan's in the room, and he said he missed us.
Thank you, Copper Dan. We missed being out here on Friday night. So we're glad to be back, and Shelley has agreed to join me on these things. So on these Forrest Fenn Friday Fenndangos.
I felt sorry for Toby being all alone.
What? Oh, Shelley, yeah.
I felt sorry for you being all alone.
Yeah, she was. She would come to visit as a moderator in the room, and did a great job. But it's always better when she's around.
Stephen Johns says 404 is Atlanta.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Oh.
Treasure is in a 12-foot hole in New Mexico. Well, if it was, what's his name? That guy would have found it, because that's about Scott Conway.
Oh.
Yeah, he was looking in a 12-foot hole. So we think that it's in New Mexico, but we couldn't tell you where. That's just our opinion, and
I don't think Forrest hired a backhoe to hide the treasure.
Hide the treasure. Yeah, it was a great story. I mean, it was very involved, you know. his concept of how it ended up there was very involved. So I was impressed. So RF Hickey's in the room, I think, because she just sent me a text message. So I'll give her that. That's about it. People in the room. We've got some new people. That's what's nice about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I am going to. So everybody was upset the other day when I said I turned on the phone and then didn't get any calls and hung up. So by the time you got that news, you were going like, oh, here we go. 404 says,
Yes, Christine and Jarrett, you can call in now.
yes. Toby, I tried to call. I was going to ask you about my text I sent before. Oh, he's got a voicemail. So he's been on here before. All right, so this is from 404. Toby, do you think the treasure will decompose over the years? Also, can you give Dope Outdoors a shout, please? Shout out, Dope Outdoors, brother. You've made the cut, so there you go. Thank you so much. From Mableton, Georgia. Oh, that's the Atlanta number. So Mableton, 404. So there is a voicemail. Let's see what the voicemail says.
Hey, Toby, this is Greg from Mableton. I left you a text. I just want to know, you think the treasure chest will decompose through the years? Thanks.
Greg, in my opinion, and I think for a lot of people, when you have a bronze chest that weighs 22 pounds, as a result of being out in simply nature, that is rain, wind, snow, it will not. Bronze is a non-ferrous metal, so it doesn't decompose in the same way that other metals might, like iron. I think it would over time. The other thing is a lot of the objects in there are gold, and gold is again non-ferrous and almost indestructible. As a matter of fact, I read a story once that says the gold that we use today in our jewelry actually is there is some component. Gold lasts forever. It doesn't decompose. It unless you melt it and put it into something else. So
You can't even digest it.
yeah. So no, I don't think it's going to decompose anytime. Certainly within our lifetimes, and certainly within a long time. It's not made. Forrest thought this out pretty well. He didn't put it in a wooden box. A wooden box would decompose, but even again, the objects that are inside that wooden box, because they're precious metals and gemstones, they're not going to decompose. They're, if I remember correctly, the inside has a velvet cover in it, so that might decompose over time. And I think I remember seeing one image in which it showed that it was what's the word I'm looking for? It has a wood liner. So that may decompose, assuming the elements can get to it. But if the chest, the box is closed, that would make it even difficult for the elements to get to it. Now, wood, because it's organic, is going to decompose whether or not the elements can get to it or not, just over time. But the bronze chest itself and the contents, which are precious metals and gemstones, they're not going to decompose. And he made sure to put his biography and his lock of hair and in the olive jar, and he sealed it with wax. So it would require that wax first to decompose, and we know there are, there were still wax seals on the Dead Sea Scrolls from 2,500 years ago. So I think he set it up so that decomposition was not an issue for the treasure. I'd say it's going to be around as long as we are, at least, certainly.
So they were talking in the room the other night about the guy who killed the cougar. Was it a cougar or mountain lion?
Yeah.
While he was out jogging, he killed it with his bare hands.
Yeah.
Strangled it.
Well, so there were several things. Number one, apparently it was a young cougar. Not that should put any different light on it.
Right? I mean, I would have a hard time with our house cat.
Yeah, exactly. How do you get a cougar, a cat, a feline of the feline persuasion to sit still long enough? And what he did is he put a what's referred to as a reverse naked chokehold on it, which is that hold that puts you to sleep.
A sleeper.
Yeah, the sleeper hold in the world of martial arts. It's called a reverse naked chokehold, and he managed to get on his back. He was experienced in jiu-jitsu, I think. So he wasn't just some guy running along.
Yeah. Well, he was jogging, right?
Yeah, he was jogging. He was attacked, and he put a naked chokehold. And if you hold that chokehold long enough, it not just puts you to sleep, it kills you, and then you can actually snap the person's neck if you're really serious about it. So, but he did get control. But I read in articles afterwards that he was experienced. He had that experience. B, he was quick enough to get the cat in a position that enabled him to put the chokehold on him, and C, it was not a full-sized cat. So what you wanted to do is make sure you got out of there before mommy came around, because that would have been a different matter. So yeah, it was pretty impressive. I think I wrote I wanted to shake hands with his cojones.
Well, Stephen Colbert talked about him on his show. He said, I don't know how he managed to go jogging with balls that big.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. With a set that big, how do you even walk around, much less go jogging? Okay, so here is a text message. It says, "Hi, I'm Richard. Watch happened to the interview on the handicap." Richard, I'm sorry. I can't figure out what you're trying to say with that one. So call in. We'll talk about it, Richard. So, all right. So we don't have any calls to deal with tonight. So I think we can probably call it a night. It's close enough. It's 8:37. So that's okay. We'll get off a little bit early. So. Go ahead, Shelley. You go first.
Oh, well, thanks so much for joining us this evening for our Friday Fenndango. I'm Shelley Carlin.
And I'm Toby Younis. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next Wednesday night with a panel. And at the moment, that we haven't decided exactly what that panel is going to be about. But we will have a panel, and we will have panelists, and we'll have something interesting to talk about. And then, of course, Shelley and I will see you on Thursday for the softer side at 1 p.m. And then Friday night again, the Forrest Fenn Fenndango. But again, thanks for joining us tonight. We have a lot of fun, and keep those questions coming. They're always fun for us, okay? Thanks, guys. Have a great night.